While walking through the forest, a man stumbled upon a lonely, unusual-looking puppy, all by itself. Feeling sorry for the little creature, he decided to take it home and care for it. But when he brought the puppy to the veterinary clinic for a checkup, the veterinarian's reaction was unexpected. His mouth dropped open in shock. What had the man brought home? Stay tuned to find out the surprising truth. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss an incredible story like this. John loved taking walks in the woods near his home. It was his favorite way to unwind, especially after long workdays. He often brought binoculars to watch birds and a video camera to capture the beauty of nature. Sometimes he would stay in the forest until sunset, soaking in the tranquility that the woods offered. One warm spring day, as John was enjoying his walk, he suddenly heard a strange sound coming from the bushes. The noise was a curious mix of squeaking and slurping, something John had never encountered in these woods before. He stopped in his tracks, puzzled, as the unusual sound grew louder and more persistent. His heart began to race with a mix of curiosity and a slight sense of unease. Intrigued and a bit cautious, John gently parted the branches and discovered a small, defenseless creature hidden behind them. At first glance, it looked like a puppy, but something about it seemed odd. The animal had almost hairless, pinkish skin and a disproportionately large head. Perhaps it was one of those hairless dog breeds John's friends had mentioned. The poor creature looked so weak that it barely had the strength to move. John felt his heart clench with compassion when he saw this little creature trembling, as if begging for help. He imagined how long this puppy could be here alone, struggling to survive. The puppy looked exhausted and weak. His sides were often heaving, and he was trembling all over, as if he were in constant fear. John realized that he couldn't leave him here alone. He took off his jacket and carefully wrapped the animal in it, being careful not to harm it. At that moment, he felt a deep connection with the puppy, as if it was now his responsibility to take care of him. As John took the puppy into his arms, he felt his little heart beating fast. The animal's skin was warm and slightly rough to the touch. The puppy had a strange smell, not like the smell of normal pets. On the way home, John carefully examined his find. The animal had unusually large eyes with long eyelashes, which gave it an even more mysterious appearance. Its muzzle was elongated, with a small flattened nose at the end. The legs seemed disproportionately large compared to the body, and the tail was short and thick. John thought about the fact that he had never seen such puppies in his life, and where he could come from in these parts. The man tried to remember if he had ever heard of such puppies, but nothing came to mind. Suddenly, the animal began to make piercing sounds, similar to a cry for help. John quickened his pace, feeling his heart pounding with excitement. He was afraid that the puppy might die in his arms. John was met at home by his wife, Sarah. She cried out in surprise when she saw the strange puppy in her husband's arms. "Where did you find him?" she asked, with a mixture of curiosity and apprehension. John described in detail how he found an abandoned puppy in the forest and added that he could not pass by in the hope of saving his life. Sarah, feeling sorry for the baby, said that first of all she needed to feed him. She quickly heated the milk and tried to feed the creature from a bottle with a nipple. However, the animal refused to drink, turning away its muzzle and making plaintive sounds. John and Sarah tried different foods, ground meat, vegetable purees, even baby food, but to no avail. The couple began to panic when they noticed that the creature was getting weaker. His breathing became ragged and his eyes began to close. In desperation, Sarah suggested that they call the veterinary clinic and find out what to do in this situation. John, concerned about the condition of the little puppy, suggested urgently going to a 24-hour veterinary clinic in a neighboring city despite the late hour. On the way to the clinic, the animal began to tremble and make weak moans, as if saying goodbye to life. Sarah held him in her arms, trying to warm him with her warmth. John drove the car at top speed, praying that they would have time to save the suffering animal. At the clinic, they were met by an elderly veterinarian, Mike, with a tired face. Seeing the unusual puppy, he frowned and quickly led them to the examination room. "Where did you get it?" Mike asked sternly, starting the inspection. While the vet worked, John and Sarah waited in the hallway, holding hands. They heard something falling and ringing in the examination room, and the veterinarian loudly giving commands to the nurse. The minutes dragged on agonizingly long. As if time had stopped, John and Sarah were overcome with anxiety, imagining the worst outcome. Finally, the vet came out to them. His face was very serious. "I managed to stabilize his condition, but I had never seen such an animal before. We need to do more research," Mike said, wiping sweat from his brow. John and Sarah spent a sleepless night at the clinic, taking turns guarding the cage with their unusual charge. They watched every movement of the puppy, whom they named Buddy, with the hope that he could recover. By morning, it seemed to them that the animal was feeling a little better. The puppy even tried to stand up on its strange paws, causing the couple a mixed feeling of relief and anxiety. Buddy spent another day in the clinic, after which the veterinarian informed the couple that they could take the puppy home. Mike gave the couple a bag of nutritious food. It was the only thing their unusual pet agreed to eat. John and Sarah happily took Buddy home, confident that everything would be fine now. 2 days later, they received a call from veterinarian Mike to inquire about Buddy's condition. He also said that his fellow zoologists were very interested in the unusual creature. Scientists have suggested that this could be the baby of a rare species of animal. Mike asked permission to come with a group of zoologists to carefully examine the find again. John and Sarah agreed, hoping to finally find out who they had sheltered. During this time, their home became a place of real scientific interest. The phone calls kept coming, and John was having a hard time answering questions from his veterinarian colleagues. Despite the excitement, he and Sarah were happy, feeling that they were helping in serious scientific work. Meanwhile, veterinarians and zoologists continued their research. Professor Robert often called John to discuss his guesses and assumptions. Each new call gave the couple hope that they would soon find out the truth about their unusual ward. They tried not to make guesses, so as not to be disappointed if they made a mistake. The couple agreed to keep everything a secret, but curiosity and anxiety did not leave them. Every morning, they anxiously awaited news from the veterinarian, hoping to learn more about Buddy's parentage. A week passed, and during this time, the animal became noticeably stronger. John and Sarah watched with joy as Buddy became more active and confidently moved around the house on his unusual paws. He even started making happy noises when Sarah brought him food. A couple of days later, the professor reported that Buddy's DNA results showed that he belonged to a rare species of mammal that had never been seen in the region before. One evening, while John and Sarah were watching TV, the doorbell rang. 2 men in uniform stood on the threshold. They introduced themselves to the zoo staff and asked if the couple had recently found an unusual animal. John and Sarah looked at each other. They didn't know whether to talk about their unusual find. But then, a characteristic squeak was heard from the room, and the zoo staff became wary. They asked permission to inspect the apartment. The couple reluctantly agreed. When the men saw the animal, their faces brightened. "Here he is, our fugitive," one of them exclaimed. It turned out that the cub found in the forest was a rare species of pig, the beaver, which escaped from the zoo through a gap in the fence. Zoo employees said that Buddy's mother was very worried after his disappearance and refused to eat. They asked for the cub to be returned. John and Sarah were sad to part with their unusual pet, but they understood that it would be better for the animal. At parting, the spouses stroked him and even shed a few tears. The zoo staff thanked them for taking care of the cub and invited them to come and visit him at any time. They also reported that the zoo management had decided to reward John and Sarah with free tickets for life. Since then, the couple often came to the zoo to visit their former pet. They happily watched him grow and play with his mother, Bobarusa. And at home, they had a photograph of an unusual pet and a memory of the incredible adventure they experienced together. This story became a part of their lives. John and Sarah often told their friends and family about it, each time adding new details and emotions that they experienced in those amazing days.